Thank you everyone for being here today, and thank you Sandhya. So we are here to talk about the future of work and redefining leadership in changing landscape. Our speaker for today is Sandhya Krishnan. She's a regional talent and development and deployment partner uh, for Indian subcontinent and Middle East and Africa at AP Moeller. So she'll be sharing her experiences, her expertise, right, and what the journey that she has been through. I will talk a brief about Mirak, our organization. So Mirak actually is derived from a word called Miraki, which means the essence of ourselves. So it's literally we putting our heart and soul and creativity into what we do. We are the largest coaching and the most impactful leadership development company, and we are dedicated to bring transformation at scale. Okay, these are some of our offerings, and yeah, the numbers speaks for themselves. So uh, you can see the global coaches and the business impacted, almost 150 plus businesses we are associated with. We have our own platform, learning experience platform, which help us deliver all the training and the learning interventions at scale. About Sandhya, I would like to say a few words, and yeah, these are all very less compared to what she stands for. Uh, Sandhya is a seasonal expert in organization development and strategic performance consulting. She's a champion in DEI and driving initiatives in women leadership development and also in inclusion of people with different abilities. Uh, she's certified and huge list of certifications. She's certified in MBTI, FIDO, Hogan, CKI, TIS, and she's a ACC, ICF certified coach. She's proficient in program designing using ADDI model. She has worked on adult learning principles. She has almost 25 years of experience overall, and she's worked in a lot of banking organizations. Uh, she's developed a lot of mentoring frameworks and strategies for leadership at a country level. She's also recognized for senior level performance consulting and aligning strategies with the business goals. Uh, and she has driven operational excellence with leveraging her Six Sigma Belt certification. A very hearty welcome to you, Sandhya. And with this, I want to hand over the baton to you and to take us through your journey and your experience and expertise with the topic that we are discussing today.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I think a good evening to all of you, everyone who's logged in. I guess it's a little late in the evening for some of us who had a long day. But thank you so much. I would like to share my screen so that there are some numbers, that statistics that I want to show. But I really wanted to ask all of you, the my co thinkers in this space, because I don't want to say I'm the expert and you are the participants. I think we're all discussing the future of work, and each of us bring a lot of expertise in what we do. So the intent is, how do we, what are certain things that you would want to see as we discuss, because I really do not have a pre-planned deck or a script, and I can really flex and tweak it based on what is the ask. But if there are any pertinent uh, expectations from some of you, I would really like to take that before we start. Is that okay with all of you? Because then there is a value for your time invested, and there is a value for me to know what are people in the space really wanting and addressing at this point of time. So it's a learning, mutual learning for all of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a few thumbs ups can be good if all of you do not want to speak. Yeah, I think Sandhya will good to go.
Okay. If there are any specific questions or expectations, please put them on the chat, or you can unmute and let me know, so that I am really addressing them. And as I said, it's value for the buck, for the time invested. Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so we are discussing something called the future of work, and I really wanted to start with few slides which will help us start thinking. So I'm going to share my screen, and please let me know if you're able to see my screen. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Let me know if my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, Sandhya, it is.
Okay, so here is a bit of slides. I'm sure no presentation looks complete without slides. So I thought, let me just put something for you. So here is something which I put down as a leadership evolution timeline. And the timeline I've taken is from 1990 to what we will be seeing, because this is future of work session to 2030. And if you see, 1990s was all about hierarchical organizations. Face to face was the way of working, and it was always top down. That was the approach, right? So most organizations, almost 85%, were hierarchical. There was face to face, which was 70%, very limited meetings or virtual connects like we have today. And then there was always a top down approach, which was almost 80% of the organization. Then when we look at the the 2000s or the 20,000 the 2000s, you will see that it changed from hierarchical to matrix organizations. The communication mode changed from face to face to digital comms, because we started leveraging more of emails, yam, so-called chats. We also had various virtual options by then, and hence you see digital comms almost made 50% of the communication methodologies or modes. And then you had the global focus as against just a top down approach, right? And then as you moved on, and this is primarily 2020s, and I think you can always define time, and most organizations or most people in this space will say there is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So post-pandemic 2020, so much changed, right? There was hybrid work, which almost now constitutes 47%. There is digital teams. You have people working across. I mean, like, I'm one of those examples, because I manage in Musk IMEA, which is India, Middle East, Africa, and the Nordic regions for the commercial operation organization, which spans almost 24 hours. So sometimes it's long hours of work, because you are handling, teams, or integration is all across. So it's a global perspective at this point of time. There are hybrid work, hybrid teams, digital teams, and the entire perspective is about integration, right? As against just global focus, we are trying to integrate. The world is no longer just about countries and global, it's all about integration. So that's how the evolution of time looks like. And I think that gives you some segue into the future of work, because as you see the graphs, so if you see from where we were to where we are, how the graphs have moved in terms of the digital access to the EQ, which is emotional quotient, and the organization flexibilities, you will see how it is all changed over a period of time, right? So that's something which I wanted to talk about, and this is something which I thought was very interesting. One of the things which helps me you know think about is remote work in 2013 was almost only 15% remote workforce. Today it is 47% as we speak, and it is much more at 2025. So the remote workforce explosion has happened. First time in the history, we are managing five generations simultaneously, right? We've had generations working together, and I think the work generations itself were at the most three at any given point of time, and in some cases four. But this is the first time that we have five different generations at the workspace. So this is something which is not something anybody has handled in the past. 89% of our companies are adopting digital transformation, because that's the only option. There is no other option. You need to transform, otherwise you will go obsolete, right? And organizations with adaptive leaders show 25% higher profitability as compared to organizations who do not have adaptive leadership. Now, what is adaptive leaders? What kind of skill sets do adaptive leaders need, right? And we are talking about the future of work. The biggest shift that has happened is the generative AI, right? And how are organizations gearing up for something which is so much about AI, digital transformation, a workforce which is no longer limited to any country, space, or workspace. There is hybrid, there is remote, there is in office, there is gig workers, and there are so many options. So you are juggling with so many types of workforce. You're also juggling with the technology, which kind of is in a way disrupting everything that we did. And everybody is talking about generative AI, right? So I wanted to check with some of you, are there any specific usability of generative AI that you are seeing in your organizations that you work for? Or what do you think is generative AI doing for some of us? Is it really transforming what we do, or it's still too early days? What do you think? Anyone wants to call it out for me, so that I don't feel I'm just speaking to the laptop, because I'm.
Sure. Sandhya Yudhishthir this side. I head HR for India for nothing. We are a technology company, a phone manufacturing organization. And
Okay.
I think, while a lot of work has gone there, but it's still a little primitive because, AI is something that we really need to figure out how best it can be used. I haven't seen very successful use cases wherein AI can actually add value, except for the fact that it can give you some core ideas or basic data, or even to some extent, people write emails, draft emails using AI, but that's not what it's meant to be. So I feel, it's a little too primitive at this point in time. I'm sure we're going to go there as we evolve, both the AIs and the functions, to use it. That's my thought on it.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think that's a very valid view. Anybody else wants to share?
So, Jude here, Sandhya.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm just interested to know about the future of work. Since AI is coming in, I mean, what's the use
Sure.
of getting into the education part, and what's going to happen in the interview process, as well as what is the shift that we are looking at, and is it going to be good? Is it going to be question mark? So yeah, so that's my question for our generation, next generation. How are they going to land on? What's the
Sure.
confusion, and what's the kind of job market?
Okay. Okay, great. So I think these are valid points, and the as you rightly said, there is a lot of excitement about the disruptive, explosive, generative AI. Lot of, I mean, we only had artificial intelligence. Now we have generative artificial intelligence, to the point that a lot of us get excited just by using, whether it's chat gpt, whether it's claude, whether it's runaway. People are, so it is not uh, it is a surface usage. It is not contextual usage, to your point, right? It makes more sense or beneficial when it is contextual usage. Yes. I mean, most organizations and some of the big tech companies have already started trying to give everyone a sense of what is expected out of this. For example, copilot, microsoft is integrating copilot, so you have a copilot in your Microsoft Office itself. It's early days, but yeah, you can see that how it is making some of your work much easier as against what it was in the past, right? You also have Gemini. You have at least the content or the the content writing part, the research part, some of it is getting quite exciting. But yes, it is early days, and the intent of all of this will only be coming out in the next few years. So where it is going to land in the space of leadership development, in the space of organizations, in the workforce management itself, I know that with generative AI coming in, the so-called workforce planning is now moving to something called strategic workforce planning. Now, what is strategic workforce planning is about bringing in all your business strategies, bringing in the industry expertise, bringing in what the industry, these typically similar industries are doing, looking at what would be a projection for your business, and then being able to strategically decide not just the number of the workforce in your teams, but also the type of workforce that you would want to get in, right? So you're planning strategically, as against, I'm sure some of you who are part of HR will let you know that the workforce team would come and say, hey, next year's projection, how many new people you will be adding, how many new workforce. And it was more of a number, it was superficial planning. But now with AI coming in as generative AI, the intent is, how do you integrate business strategy? How do you integrate what's the long term strategy? What are the business plans? What are the current capabilities and skills that we have? What are the future skills that will be required by this organization to fulfill the business strategy? Where are the gaps? What is the hiring that you need to do? What is the type of persona, using human centric design, you will want to bring in the workforce for your team, and then making a strategic workforce, right? So that's some of the spaces where generative AI is already coming in. Sentiment analysis, I'm sure some of us who do surveys, in the past, when you have so much narrative, it was difficult. The consulting teams or the consulting companies would give you the positives and the negatives in terms of sentiments. But now, even when you get into a meeting, you possibly taken a copious note between you and the teams that you were there, and the leaders and the business, and come back and say, hey, what was the sentiment? I thought it was good, but maybe the AI is able to give you, was it a neutral sentiment? Was there a positive sentiment? And then work on the negatives, or the sentiments which were not so positive, and seeing what actions can I pull out of this basis what comments were made, right? So that's where the workforce will move over a period of time. And I really needed to move into the next slide. What are the core leadership transformations that we are seeing? As I just called out, human centered leadership is going to take prominence, because I'm sure you've heard all these great lines being said that, hey, you know what, artificial intelligence is not going to take away jobs, but someone who knows artificial intelligence will take away your job if you do not learn it. So all those narratives are already there. But the intent is that what any generative AI learns through machine learning, through deep learning, is with the number of used cases that it is given or it learns, right, over a period of time. And hence, the human centric approach of a leader, or any of us, or our experiences that we have built, will completely be responsible for driving generative AI in the future. So 96% of executives rate empathy as crucial for retention, because here is a leadership which is no longer only going to manage workforce on ground, but remote workforce, hybrid workforce, gig workforce. In the same team, you may have a human, you may also have a humanoid, you may have a generative AI working for you. As a leader, how are you going to juggle all these kind of workforce? So 96% of executives rate empathy, 78% are higher productivity with strong well-being programs. So as all these various shapes and forms of workforce, the future of work is taking shape, well-being is getting a prominence. And here, the newer generations are giving more importance to mental health and well-being. They do respect the work life and the time that they spend at work and the time that they need to spend outside. They call it soft space. There is a hard space, which is work, and there is a soft space, which is outside. So well-being is going to be very crucial for the future workforces, because that will actually decide who wants to stay, who will want to work for your organization. It's no longer the good old days of how we managed engagement, or the good old days of how do we manage rewards, recognitions, and benefits, right? This is highly important. As I said, mental health is highly paramount. And then, of course, enhanced focus on employee engagement and inspiration. So, leaders who can actually build engagement and inspiration will be something which will be prominent as you move into the next 5 years, where generative AI is going to help you navigate, right? And it's going to transform, it's already transforming various industries, various verticals, various corridors of professional space, including human resources as well. So that's what are the core leadership transformations that all of us are going to see, and we're seeing it all around us, right? So just for an example, we are talking empathy. Earlier it was good enough to know what is empathy. It is no longer good enough to know empathy. So it starts from pity to sympathy to empathy. Now it is not no longer empathy, you need to know compassion. Compassion is where the skills that will be required for a leader, right? Because it's not just good enough to, okay, I understand. Okay, you understand, however, what is it that you can do for the workforce, and what actions will you take? That's where you become a compassionate leader, because now you've understood the pain, right? Let me know if there are any questions or anything that is on the chat, because I am sharing my screen. I'll not be able to see what comes up. So Chandana or any or my host for today, if you can just let me know if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take that. Yeah.
So Sridhar has his hand up, and I also have one question for you based on the leadership competencies,
Sure.
Sandhya.
Sure.
Sridhar, you want to go first?
Or you can go either way.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Sridhar. Then I'll ask my question.
I hope I am audible.
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Good evening, and you have begun well, madam. I'm Sridhar from Chennai.
Thank
One
you.
important point, actually. Of course, the
Sure.
AI, the role of AI, you have done well. The crucial question now, you said 5 generations we are managing now. All right.
Yes.
And let us discuss the extremes of the spectrum.
Yep.
People at the other side, or could be in their 50s and like that, late 50s, like that, who could, for all you know, retire in a few years. For a
Right.
moment, we'll leave them. But the people who are entering the system, they are the
Yes.
one who needs to be nurtured and nursed. And who is going to do them is a frontline manager. But the point is, the frontline manager again is in his 30s only, who could be, if not Gen Z, slightly above. So I
Yep.
believe the second line manager is going to have really a challenging assignment, because the frontline manager will uh, train the new entries, Gen Z. Is
Yep.
he well trained? Frontline manager, that is the question. So who is going to do that? Second line manager. But here the second line manager could be typically like he could be in his 40s or something, mid
Yep.
40s. So he or she needs to be sensitized and trained precisely as you said, emotional intelligence. Because
Yep.
all other things are there, but in the recent survey says emotional intelligence is one of the top 5 qualities uh, organizations are looking for now. So,
Yes.
so the
Yep.
second line manager's job, I'm sorry, I'll just complete one line. The second line managers need to be well trained and sensitized. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've summed it up well, and brought a very important point, which is what I was also emphasizing, right? The human centered leadership at every level. So, not necessarily, whether it is the frontline manager, whether it is the manager of the manager, or it is the enterprise leader, at every level, the human aspects or the emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, as we call it, is going to be paramount. So it is also, with the generative AI and the technology at hand, it sometimes gets a little more easier to navigate. Yes, earlier we would get all the leaders or managers, even first time managers, into training rooms and train them on managerial skills. Those are not the formats today. So you have learning on the go, you have something called movements that matter, right? So how do you approach? You have a conversation that you need to have with someone. Here you can actually go and ask for a very personalized learning moment that you need to have before you're going to get into conversation with, say, the Gen Z that you're managing. You don't know how to manage it, but manage that specific workforce, or that the generation that you're dealing with. But here is certain tips that you can immediately get. You could also get use cases. You could also have an online coach or a mentor helping you, right? So what this technology has also done for us is that you can get personalized learning. You can get learning in the moments that matter. I think the biggest example of used case is YouTube, right? Whenever in times of needs, most of the people log into YouTube and say, hey, I want to, there's a problem with any of your gadget, how to get this working again, or how do I figure out what is wrong. Most of the folks log on to YouTube to figure that out, and that's moment of learning, moments that matter. So to your point, yes, leadership development, specifically empathy, creativity, critical thinking, and lateral thinking, are the areas which most managers at every level, so we call them leadership pathways. Every time that you're transitioning into a new level, you need to have these skills, and that would be paramount. Okay, I think you also had a
Sure, sure.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandhya. So, a question and also an observation based on what Sridhar also said. When we are talking about core leadership, right, and the transformation, so there are n generations we are managing, right? So, when I look at the oldest generation, the philosophy of work was to work hard, right? And hence we worked hard, right? So, all our life we have really, really worked hard until now, right? And now when they are in the phase of retiring or pre-retiring phase, right, uh,
Yeah.
uh, and they can get some time or some leisure of it, they still have everything on their shoulder, because the generation who came post them came with the thought process of having a work life balance, having human centricity, being taken care of. Now somebody has to also take the ownership of the work being done, right? So that is still on me if I count myself as the oldest generation. So all my life I worked hard. I'm still expected to work hard and take care of everybody who took care of me, right? So I I see it as, this is not fair to me. Okay, while the generation who just came in expect to be pampered, to be taken care of as soon as they join. So what happened in the generation who had been here, who worked hard when they joined, thinking few years of hard work and I'll be a bit better off, and then I'll get time with my family, leisure, I'll get time for myself. That never came for the other generations, right? It's sort of seem unfair to me, on right, how to balance it out then.
Yeah, I think, it's a every generation has its pros and cons, and I don't feel that, this the new generation is doing anything wrong from their perspective, right? Because that was a privileged generation. They were born with a mobile, assuming it's a part of their, existence, right? We have so the generations which were like the Gen X or the baby boomers, they started with no technology to actually adopting technology, no mobile to smartphones. Some of them seen all, but I think it is about how do you balance. Yes, that generation did not have the opportunity. It was not a privileged generation. It's also because the country that you we are talking about, India, is a developing nation, and at that point of time, most of us were exactly after the independence. So obviously the country itself was on a phase of development. Everything had to be built grounds up. But as you see now, it's a shining India. There is enough opportunities. The the children's or the kids that we are talking about, they are privileged. So it is no longer about the basic needs. The basic needs have been taken care of. It is about what they are asking for is, what are my higher needs, right? And if you see, most statistics will tell you that the new generations want to know the purpose behind what they do. And that is when, if you remember the Maslow's theory, the
Right.
5 levels. So you start from the basics to the security needs to the power needs. All that is already taken care of. So what remains is purpose, the self actualization level. So if you give them a purpose, why behind the role, and that is where the leadership is important, of being able to emotionally connect with every generation, being able to tell them the reason behind why they're doing this, and that will help. Yes. It's also because, as you said, when will I get some peace? It's also because it is also about the mental health and mindfulness, which this generation or the past generations need to take. It's time to step back, pan the camera inwards and say it is okay to relax. It is okay to take some time off, and not just make comments on the newer generation saying, oh my God, this generation is only about fun. The question that one needs to ask is, why are you not having fun? Right? So in
Exactly. The organization has to balance for
yes.
all generation, all roles, right?
Yes. No, it's
Not
your
just this
mental.
that.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
also a bit of mental elasticity that the older generations need to build, saying that it is okay to sometimes have fun. Right? It is okay to take some time off. You no longer will be judged if you're not doing 12 hours of work every day,
That's
because
right.
that's how people were judged in the past. But if you continue with that thoughts, that's what you're expecting the new generations to do, which is not going to work, because that is not the need of the hour. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 Sandhya. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay. So I know we are talking about the future of work, but this is based on research from the top big five consulting firms. The top leadership priorities for 2025 and forward is what I said: flexibility and adaptability. 82% of leaders need to be enhancing their flexible work options. So the very question that you said, right? I have always worked. When am I going to take some rest? So the answer is, take rest. Be flexible, be adaptable to the new ways of thinking, to the new ways of working. It is no longer the 9 hours shift. People work from home, so they don't necessarily need to be micromanaged. Once you've given them the responsibilities, people should be aware of it and they will deliver. Right? So building trust, building psychological safety in your teams is going to be one of the biggest priorities for leaders across industry verticals, across spaces that they work for. Human centric leadership, again, as we said, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, creativity, inspiration is what will be the need of the hour. Skills development and upskilling, based on where you are, what skills you need to pick up, what skills you need to take off your arsenal of what you bring to the table. AI, generative AI, is making so much advances in every industry, in every vertical, in every space. So being aware of what it can do for your industry, for your vertical, for your work, for your role is very important, rather than brushing it off saying, hey, you know what, it is good for people who want to write their emails, it is only good for people who want to make presentations. No, it is supposed to be something which every industry, every workspace can look at. And that is what you need to understand: how can you integrate generative AI in your space? Authentic leadership is the need of the hour. And it is also being called out in the World Economic Forum at Davos. Right? Authentic leadership, but be it geopolitical, be it industries, be it huge conglomerates, this is a leadership which is expected. And addressing leadership burnout, to the point why some people are working more, some are taking it lightly. How do you figure out what is the best for you and for your leaders. So expecting, since you're it can also be a personality trait, right? Some of us are workaholics. Work is our anchor. So if you are working 16, 17 hours, and if you expect your leaders to work the same, possibly it's a wrong message you're sending out, right? You figuring out that why are you working 17 hours, there's something wrong with the way you're working, right? Figuring out how you leveraging your leadership teams, how are you leveraging technology, how are you building the next levels and bench strength, and addressing burnouts for yourself and for your teams is going to be very important, because the Gen Z is watching today. People do not just check LinkedIn profiles, they check the social profiles. They get enough information socially about the company, the leader, the people they are going to work with. And if they figure out that this is a company where everybody needs to put in 13 hours, 15 hours, you already have a brand equity which does not work for you, right? So that is something which is going to be some of the crucial skills that will be required in 2025, right? Any questions before I move to the next screen?
Shruti has her hand raised. Shruti, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sandhya. Actually, it's not a question, but it was in the context of the conversation that was going on around different kinds of generation, and one
Yeah.
generation feeling I'm working a lot more.
Yeah.
What I feel is that there are different ways of working of both the generations, and putting in work-life balance in particular in place is also a part of being human-centric for self. So
Yes.
being a leader, I first be human-centric for myself and be the leader that I am seeking for, than before I become the leader to the other people. So number one, I feel is that because I've experienced that in an instance when a youngster didn't reply to the WhatsApp message of a senior, which was sent like at 2 a.m. in the night. And one of the other colleagues, who is older, like 15 years in experience, immediately replied to that message like in around 2:30 or so. And in the morning, there was all the fuss about it that a senior person woke up to reply to the senior's message, and the actual maintenance officer was sleeping. So that was the message that was being spread. So that officer was really confident and came that I didn't find any purpose of making a reply at 2:30. I came up to the plant, made the correction that was expected of me, and I didn't feel that it was to be replied for. So in that situation, I understood I was a spectator, I was a part of the team. So I saw that actually there was no need, there was no expectation for that reply at 3 a.m. Nobody asked him or
Yes.
her to do that. The other youngsters had a right expectation, which intrigued me to understand what is all the rush about in our generation to be so, so attached to what we are delivering, or what is it about? So this new generation is teaching us a lot. They have this quality
Absolutely.
of yes, they are. We need to be so it brings me back to the same point that when I am being a human centric leader, first I need to apply it on myself, whichever generation I am. So
Right.
when I do that,
Absolutely.
I genuinely be that human centric leader who is not working much and setting up the right expectations for itself, the other leaders, and the subordinates. That is what I wanted to contribute.
Sure, perfect, Shruti. And I think that's what
Thank you.
we were saying, right? How do you build the psychological safety in a multi generational team where you have different generations of people working together and everybody feels safe and trustworthy, rather than saying this is the norm of this team? I think it is also about embracing diversity and inclusion in your teams, whether it is gender, whether it is generational, whether it is nationalities, whether it is religion. Being able to respect everyone and what they bring to the team is what the leader has to be doing, and setting examples and becoming a role model. So if you have, well, as that's what the response I was giving, that if you are used to working 17 hours a day and responding to email even at 3 a.m. in the night, You will expect, do not expect the same from your team. Give them their space, give them the way they manage the work, trust them. And that's how you will be creating high performing teams, not trying to build clones of who you are. Because a lot of us assume what got me here is what others also need. It may not be the need of the hour, right? Because there is no template for leadership. Let's just understand that there are leaders of different types, and there are successes in each different types. So you cannot put leadership under a template saying that these are the skill sets required for a leader. But there are certain generic themes is what we are calling out, that being human centric, being authentic, being able to address leadership burnouts, and being flexible and adaptable, open to change, is what will be required. Make sense? Okay,
Yeah.
let me go ahead. So the future projections of what you should expect is that 65% of leadership roles are becoming hybrid or remote. So it's no longer the C suites and the brick and mortar model. 65% of leadership roles are going to become hybrid, remote. You will have teams you're managing across the world. You may not necessarily have a C suite in the location you are. Your headquarters may be somewhere, but you may still be a leader or a CXO, right? 35% of leadership tasks will have AI augmentation, right? Which means that a lot of stuff which leaders do today may have artificial intelligence coming in, right? For example, the good old days where we highly had a team of researchers only doing research, a team of number crunchers, a team of data analysts, all sitting in the CXO offices and building what was supposed to be the strategic leadership view, possibly now takes lesser time, because you have the AI to look at numbers, draw the connections, the relationships. It doesn't mean that you as a strategic leader will lose the essence of what you bring to the table, because what a AI misses is the experiences, the way you navigated, the unthinkable, the things that cannot be predicted or are, life always throws curveballs at you. You may have a plan A, a plan B, both didn't work. You needed to have a plan D in your pocket. That is coming from leadership experiences. But as a leader, you may have a lot of your tasks which will be augmented, right? You will have 40% women in executive positions by 2030. So you need to get geared up for the new generation of CEOs who would also be women, right? You will have 90% leaders requiring advanced digital skills, because some of them may be coming from the generation X, or the earlier generations who possibly are not as sharp in digital skills as some of the current generation is. So what you learned came naturally as a natural skill to the new generation. So being able to adapt to digital skills will be an ask from the leaders, right? From 90% of leaders will need digital skills, and 80% of hiring decisions will be in the future influenced by emotional intelligence. So cognitive skills, domain expertise, functional skills will no longer be a criteria. It will be how good are you in your emotional intelligence, in your emotional equity, is what will be looked at in the future, right? So that was some of the things that I really wanted to share with all of you. And I really wanted to open it up now for a bit of discussion, so that it is more interactive than just a one way conversation where I am going to share a lot of information. But I think under the digital skills, I definitely wanted to call out that the digital skills, when we call emotional intelligence, it's no longer the good old emotional intelligence we're talking about. We are talking about emotional intelligence under the construct of technology, right? So technology enabled emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, where, like as I said, you are not going to handle just one type of workforce. You have multifaceted workforces. You also need to understand how do you manage a humanoid, how do you manage a generative AI in your team, right? How do you talk to them? What do you converse with them? How do you have a team meeting where everybody is there? You have the humanoid, you have the human workforce, you have the generative AI, everybody that you need to work with, right? So emotional intelligence is, like somebody said, starting with yourself, self managing, self control, being able to predict the experiences and the reactions of the network that you work with is going to be a tougher decisions that you will have to make now, because it's not going to be easy, because this is AI and humanoids are the newest workforce getting added, right? So it's not going to be easy for some of us, right? Being able to trust what comes out of AI blindly is also the biggest mistake you can make, right? Because I'm sure some of you who are using generative AI, not all responses which come out of a chat GPT are correct responses, right? It depends upon how sharp is your prompt. That is one. It secondly is to know how much do you know the space of what you are getting your artificial intelligence to work on, right? If you do not have the experiences, your in artificial intelligence is only going to give you what they have learned so far. So it is getting everything concise, making it available to you, but the final decision and the navigation is something which each of you need to make, right? For that, what is most important? So EI is one. I call There is another EI. What is that? Any guesses? Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Sorry.
Isn't it emotional intelligence?
Yeah, emotional intelligence, yes, given we need to have emotional intelligence. There is another EI that is going to be the crux of what you will achieve in future when you are going to work with generative AI. What do you think is that?
Sandhya, you want to stop sharing your screen so that you see everybody on the chat better?
Oh, okay, my screen is still being shared.
Visible, yes, yes, yes,
Sorry. Stop sharing. Okay.
yes, yeah.
So what do you think is that EI? It is experience index. So your experience index, the richer it is, the better you will get at navigating and leveraging artificial intelligence. So experience index, emotional intelligence, and artificial intelligence or generative AI, these are the three multifaceted skills. If you are able to build for yourself in whichever space you want to be, is going to be your ace ticket, right? Because experience cannot be given to an generative AI. It is created and you have earned it over the period of time. So if you say, I mean, it's not just saying I have 15 years of work experience, right? I'm sure we all know, did you do the same thing 15 years or you did multiple things in 15 years? So you have real hardcore 15 years of experience, and that experience is now going to be of prima facie importance, because the generative AI does not have experience. It has knowledge, it has skills, and it has the learnings from the past used cases, right? So, experience is that tacit knowledge which you do not put down anywhere. It is here, right? Right inside you. So, in knowledge management, people who have done knowledge management, there is implicit knowledge, there is explicit knowledge, and then there is tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge always is something which you experienced, right? Say, no, I am not sure, but I know this will not work. Have you seen some of us, we use that statements in meetings? So why do you think? And then you're trying to put it into articulate into words why, and that why is coming from head, heart, and gut, and that head, heart, and gut comes from your past experiences, right? And there is no surety that experiences are 100% true, but that is what is going to be the golden ticket for you to harness as we go into the phase where you need to have the future of workforce, right? um, any other questions that you have? I really wanted to make this more about interactive discussion than me giving you, because as I said, everything is available, but I'm sharing what I think is going to be the future, right?
Sure.
Anything
Sandhya,
else?
there is a question on the chat by Ash. If you
Yeah.
want to answer that, she's
Okay.
she's explaining workspace scenario where uh, her experiencing her opinion about employee benefit, or actually having something for the employees were discarded, and she's not sure how to maneuver through that and generate trust for the leaders, who she is managing, if whatever they recommend is not really being accepted.
Okay. uh, I'm in a leadership role. Okay, let me read it.
So everybody, we just have 5 more minutes. So if you have some questions, please feel free to put it on the chat and ask it yourself. You can also let us know or mail it to us, and we'll get you the answer if that is what you need. It has been a wonderful session by Sandhya. A lot of data and statistics. I'm a very math oriented person. I really like to see all the details, and some of them were, yeah, really surprising for me. I did not look for these numbers before. So thank you so much for bringing that for us, Sandhya.
Sure. Yeah. So I think the question is, Ash, that leadership role. So it is about how much trust you have built, and I think it is two ways, right? Sometimes uh, it's also because of the colonial raj that we had in India. We always believe in hierarchy, and the boss is always right, right? It also depends upon how are you actually placing that suggestion of what you think, because sometimes if you brush aside someone's opinion and say, I think we should do this, the other person immediately feels that you are brushing aside his or her opinion, right? Because it's primarily because of our primitive brain. So we have a primitive brain, right? We have emotional brain, and the top of it is the logical, or the logical or the rational brain, which is the newest brain. So the first brain which gets activated is the primitive brain, right? Or it's called the brain which only knows fight or flight. So the moment you say, I think we should do it this way, oh, so you're saying you're right and I am wrong, so immediately it is a defensive mode taken. But instead of, the way you put it across could be, hey, you know what you're saying is an absolutely great idea, but I want to share another idea. It has worked for me in the past. So you're also giving some validity of it has worked. Do you want to consider this one? Maybe we can try this one for this time and see how does it work. That can be a better way of presenting your ideas, rather than saying let's do this one over what someone at an hierarchical level. And it's also about how mature that leader is, right? So once you have shared the way which makes him feel his hierarchy or authority is not being challenged, he possibly is more open to accepting your suggestions. So it could be the way you share with them, and over a period of time you build trust, because they start seeing that what you're suggesting works, and over a period of time it is accepted. Yeah. Sridhar, you have a question?
Yeah, just we have only 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Next 5 years, 5 points you said for leadership. All the 5 are important, but 90% of the leaders will require digital intelligence. So
Yes.
we'll take it. Artificial intelligence is one of them.
Yes.
That means you're talking of senior leadership in any organization. Possibly the really big organizations, they are prepared to train their senior leadership on artificial intelligence. But I'm afraid this medium-sized companies, I think there could be some problem on two areas.
Yeah.
One, to allocate budget. Two, do we have adequate teachers in AI to teach all this plethora of people?
I agree. But I think there is a lot of these big tech companies who have now started giving free courses which are available and is open for everyone. So I think if there is a need and the leader is, most leaders, as you said, small and mid-sized enterprises, if they are smart and rationally logic and have understood the need of the next few years, they would start doing this. Because the moment you start learning it over, because today information is available everywhere, right? So that is what they should start doing, because information is available. It is just about, are you taking the time, effort, and pushing your envelope beyond your leadership responsibilities to add value to yourself. To the point somebody said, first make that effort to yourself and then change the world. So the change starts with you as a leader, right? Okay, so I think we are
Okay.
at top of the hour. Thank you so
Yes.
much. I enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure some of the ideas were worth your consideration. And thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandhya, for being here
Sure.
today and sharing your insights and yeah, and with so much data and insights. We are really grateful for that. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and making this session successful. We look forward for more and more participation and contribution in the session. So, yeah, we would like more people asking questions, more people being participative. And thank you for making this successful for
Thank
all
you.
of us.
Take care.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening, everyone. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.